Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Jubilees,
chapters 47 through 50. Lawrence, are you okay?
You know what? It's already been a long day.
How hungover are you?
And no, I am not hungover.
Why not?
I am drunk.
Oh.
I'm not actually drunk, don't worry. But
shit.
yeah.
I'm
just messing up today.
Serious technical difficulties today.
We did.
At the very start of the day, and it is still influencing it. Like I'm not even recording it.
And
I can't because it's set to a wrong path.
Weird.
Yeah, that's happened before.
I'll make it up. I'll make the new
OBS.
path. Then I'll make it up. It'll be
Sure.
fine.
Well, it worked like midstream last time when you reset the path. So
Yeah. But
there you go.
Either way.
We're finishing Jubilees today.
Yes, finishing Jubilees, and because it's Christmas Day, you know what?
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yes, no, I don't think that makes it a miracle. It's a Christmas episode.
It lined up. What does that mean? Nothing. You guys are so goddamn.
You know what? It feels like a weekend. So sorry that I got the day wrong.
It's Friday.
I know it's Friday, but it feels like a weekend.
You're thinking Easter, man.
I'm just saying because it's a holiday, no one's really doing anything, and usually people don't really do things on weekends. So, just saying.
Well, we do things every weekend, and
yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
so why don't we get into this? Where's the chat?
We got.
I'm working here.
Yeah,
remember I'm
he's gotta do
working
his
here.
thing.
Do your thing.
So yeah, we got Jubilees today. We're finishing it. It's very, very exciting. And then next week we are starting Tobit.
Yes, we are, and Tobit will surely be incredibly exciting.
Well, it's going to be it's a story. It's a narrative all on its own. It's not like a retelling.
It's recording now. Hi,
Great.
Records.
So it's not like a retelling of anything we've read already. It does share some motifs, like with like Job and stuff. But it's a completely different thing, and you know what? We should be excited to get to it because right now we are technically rereading Genesis.
Exodus at this point.
Yes, Exodus at this point.
Last episode is actually kind of cool with the Canaanite War, or was that with the one before it?
Dude, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was last episode.
Bro, this is so weird. The settings got us back to the folder Streamworks from
and apparently our
3
current
years
bit
ago.
rate is higher than the recommended bit rate.
I mean,
It was before.
whatever.
Why didn't it tell us that
Whatever.
before?
It's been a weird day, all right?
Yeah.
It's been a weird day.
What the hell?
Things seem to be working.
It is
Technology
working.
sucks, man.
All right. Things seem to be
You
working
mean it's
right
higher
now.
quality than they'd like? Oh no!
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
What a problem!
YouTube's like, man, we wanted to use all of that space for PewDiePie or something.
Of course. Yeah, because YouTube's going to, they're all in it for PewDiePie.
Yeah, basically, man, they make a lot of money off of them.
Yeah, but they don't even like PewDiePie.
They might not like him personally.
They like the money he
they like
generates.
the money.
That's why they keep him on the platform. But, otherwise,
Yeah.
there was that whole thing about him possibly being, shadow banned and something like that.
Yeah. Well, we're shadow banned.
Yeah, probably.
Almost certainly.
Yeah. Well, although the Lilith video has been picking up traction again.
That's interesting.
It's Christmas.
Yes, of course. Christmas and Lilith go hand in hand.
You just said Christmas.
Yes, I did.
Christmas. Oh man, did you just get your two front teeth?
Because I was going to say Lilith also, but okay. How about we hop into Jubilees? Okay, I think it's about time.
Okay.
Oh, really? You didn't love this huge tangent? Okay, me too.
Yeah,
Let's
enough
get
of the mispronouncing words and stuff. Let's go.
Yeah.
Chapter 47, from Moses' birth to his escape from Egypt.
Yeah, I do have some notes here. So Jubilees 47 rewrites much of the material in Exodus 2, 1 through 15. the story about Moses' birth, his life in the royal court, and the events that forced him to flee Egypt. The first verse ties the narrative to the war account in chapter 46 by reporting the return of Moses' father to Egypt from Canaan, where the hostilities had stranded him for 41 years. Amram and his wife, this name always got to me, Jochebed, or Jochebed, I don't know, became the parents of Moses 28 years later. During all this time, the Egyptian policy of oppressing the Israelites was in force, but a new and cruel application of it required that Israelite male babies be drowned in the river. Of course, that motif sharing parallels, probably on purpose to
What you do with idols.
Well, yes, but they're not so much drowned in the river, the idols,
Right.
but they're destroyed, and then the ashes or whatever are thrown into the river.
Yeah, but I mean, if you throw
But I was thinking
human
of,
babies into the river, they're destroyed.
yes, that is accurate. That is absolutely
Come on,
accurate.
man. That's horrible.
Although no, I was thinking about the Herod thing
Oh yeah.
in Matthew,
Yeah.
because he orders the death of all the newborns or whatever, trying to get rid of any Messiah.
Yeah. Which
Didn't work out for him. Yeah.
Backfires on Pharaoh because obviously the firstborn sons of Egypt are killed in the plagues.
They call them self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
That's one of those.
Well, we can continue with the reading, or even get started on the reading.
Yeah,
Why don't we do that? Okay. During the 7th week in the 7th year in the 47th Jubilee, 2303, your Latin uses third person form here, his, and later in the verse, he was born later in the verse, when second person forms are actually needed. Okay. Your father came from the land of Canaan. You were born during the 4th week in its 6th year in the 48th Jubilee, 2330. This was the time of distress for the Israelites. Yeah, it doesn't say a time of distress. It says this was the time of distress for the Israelites.
Yeah, the period when Moses was born is called the time of distress. Because the Greek uses a definite article with the noun. Okay. Because, otherwise it would be a time. For the Israelites, the designation characterizes the period when the Egyptians were oppressing the Israelites. For the situation, for the situation, see Exodus. We already got that. So the birth of Moses occurs at a dark time in the people's history. The difficult situation is, however, about to get worse.
Yeah. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had given orders regarding that they were to throw their sons, every male who was born, into the river, as we discussed. They continued throwing them in for 7 months until the time when you were born. Your mother hid you for 3 months. Then they told about her. She made a box for you, covered it with pitch and asphalt, and put it in the grass at the riverbank. She put you in it for 7 days. Your mother would come at night and nurse you, and during the day your sister Miriam would protect you from the birds. At that time, Tarmuth, Pharaoh's daughter, went out to bathe in the river and heard you crying. She told her slaves to bring you, so they brought you to her. She took you out of the box and pitied you. Then your sister said to her, "Should I go and summon for you one of the Hebrew women who will care for and nurse this infant for you?"
Here's something a little bit different.
Well, hold on. Ethiopic reads her Hebrews. Since Dillman's first publication of Jubilees, Jubilane, the Ethiopic form has been regarded as a confusion that arose in Greek Jubilees. Abreis, female servants, was misread as Ebreus, Hebrew woman.
Okay, yeah, so very Yeah, there's a very close textual note
Mm.
here as well. So Miriam, who is never named in Exodus 2, now springs into action and suggests a clever plan. You already got to 7, right?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of 7.
Okay, why don't you just finish verse 8, actually?
She said to her, "Go." She went and summoned your mother, Jochebed. She gave her wages and took care of you.
Okay. So this is a little bit different. A little bit different than the Exodus narrative. So verse 7 there. Then your sister said to her, "Should I go and summon?" So on, so on. But in Exodus it says, "Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, 'Shall I go get a nurse?'" From the Hebrew. Yeah. So a little bit different there. Miriam offers to find a wet nurse for Moses, but where in Exodus 2:7 she suggests getting a nurse to nurse the child, in Jubilees 47:7 she has a wider kind of service in mind. She wonders whether the princess would like to have a Hebrew woman who would care for the child and nurse him. The verb translated "will care for" is tahadeno. It has a range of meanings: hold in the lap, nurse, nourish, suckle, things along those lines. But the fact that it is followed by another verb with the narrower sense of nurse suggests its meaning lies in the area of rearing or caring for.
All right. Afterwards, when you had grown up, you were brought to Pharaoh's daughter. Ethiopic manuscripts read house. Pharaoh's house.
Yeah.
A mistake that goes back to the confusion between Hebrew daughter and house, which is
Very similar. It's
BT and BYT.
yeah, so literally just a difference of that one letter.
Yeah. Okay. And became her child. Your father Amram taught you the art of writing. After you had completed 3 weeks, 21 years, he brought you into the royal court. You remained in the court for 3 weeks of years, 21 years, until the time when you went from the royal court and saw the Egyptian beating your kinsman, who was one of the Israelites. You killed him and hid him in the sand. The next day you found 2 of the Israelites fighting. You said to one who was mistreating the other, "Why are you beating our brother?" He became your brother. He became angry and indignant and said, "Who appointed you as ruler and judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then you were afraid and ran away because of this matter. That's the end of chapter 47.
Yeah.
Incredibly short this time.
Yeah, especially for Jubilees. So though he tends to
Favorite
abbreviate
number already gone. Damn.
Yep.
Though he tends to abbreviate the accounts in Exodus, the writer here prefaces 2 verbs to the quoted words of the guilty person. They are found in no ancient version of Exodus, but are present in both the Ethiopic and Latin translations of Jubilees and make explicit the tone in which he spoke. This will hardly be the only time in the Pentateuch that Israelites become angry at Moses. Yeah, you're telling me. The first question posed by the speaker concerns positions. By the speaker concerns positions Moses appears to be assuming without due process of appointment, and he clearly does not think Moses has the authority to settle the matter. But in neither Exodus nor Jubilees does the issue of official functions for Moses become the point of emphasis. Rather, the man's second question, which proves that Moses had failed in his attempt to keep his execution of the Egyptian secret, determines Moses' response. The man categorizes Moses' act of the previous day as killing or murder, not an act meant to help his own people. Both texts report that Moses became afraid, but Exodus adds the words Moses spoke to himself, and also that Pharaoh became involved in the situation. In this instance, as in others, Exodus does not speak about a family relationship between the monarch and his daughter's adopted son. Why would he want to kill Moses for having executed an abusive Egyptian? In Jubilees, the king has no role in the present circumstances. Moses, when he recognizes the situation, decides to flee. He does not run away because Pharaoh had pronounced a death sentence on him. He flees Egypt because the Israelite knows about how he killed an Egyptian. He does not run away from Pharaoh. Okay, so now he's not scared of Pharaoh at all in Jubilees.
not at all.
No threat from Pharaoh.
Point one thing out that I think is kind of funny now that I've realized it. I have basically recreated our stream entirely from scratch today, and I didn't notice that until now.
Okay.
Think about it.
That'll happen.
Hey, round of applause.
I thought, oh man, what if something was really fucked? I'd have to remake everything. And then it happened, and I didn't even give a shit until now. I noticed it in retrospect.
It's happened before. It'll happen again.
That is
And you know what else will happen again?
I blame
Me reading from Jubilees.
Yeah, that'll happen again.
Yeah, chapter 48.
OBS with its ridiculous updates that destroyed its functionality.
Like, what the hell? It went into dark mode and everything. Like, what?
Yeah, sometimes there's just no purpose to that.
Yeah, but hey, if you're enjoying the stream so far, which you should be,
yeah.
Give us a like, comment, subscribe. I see that Matthew is talkative today.
Good to see you back, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you back. It's happy Christmas.
Yeah,
happy Christmas.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Keep chatting away. We appreciate it.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
And happy Christmas.
Yeah, happy Chris Mahana Kwanzaa.
Love it. All right, how about we hop into chapter 48, shall we?
So this chapter is going to continue the personal story of Moses as he reaches the land of Midian, returns to Egypt, performs the 10 plagues, and leads the Israelites out of Egypt to the sea, while God and his angels overpower Mastema and his forces. It's remarkable for the brevity with which it treats Moses' time in Midian, but especially for how it abbreviates the divine encounter with Moses and revelation of the Lord's special name, which occupies Exodus 3. The writer devotes one clause to it and does not even mention the burning bush or disclosure of the divine name other than indirectly. He seems much more concerned to show that God, through Moses, took revenge on the Egyptians and their gods through the plagues. Another narrative that's drastically shortened.
Yeah, so it when it comes to the Genesis stuff, like, we talk about Joseph and, the patriarchs, that stuff wasn't, let's be honest, that stuff wasn't too heavily abbreviated.
Right.
Because in comparison, the Moses stuff is so much shorter.
Well, you have to consider also that this is still the angel of the presence talking to Moses. And consequently, he doesn't really need to go into that much detail about Moses' life.
Oh, yeah, I guess, because, if he's talking to Moses, he's...
well, Lawrence,
I'm going
to tell you about your past that you
Fair
knew.
Enough. Fair enough. Makes sense.
With that being said, I'm surprised that it has as much detail as it does, given that he's talking to Moses.
Yeah, could have just said, and now you're here.
Yeah, you know what happened. You were there.
No, it's like that Family Guy moment where they kept going back into their own flashback because they'd recall it, and then they'd recall it again.
That's right.
Like, no.
So let's do it to it.
All right. During the 6th year of the 3rd week of the 49th Jubilee, 2372, you went and lived there for 5 weeks and 1 year, 36 years.
So there's some textual notes here. The writer dates Moses' arrival in Midian to the year 2372, 42 years after his birth in 2330, and says that he remained there for 5 weeks and 1 year, 36 years. The only words related to Exodus 2:15b have to do with his settling in the foreign land, although even here there's a difference. Exodus 2:15b says he's settled in the land of Midian. Ethiopic Jubilees 48:1, you went and lived there. Latin Jubilees 48:1, you went and lived in the land of Midian. The Ethiopic there is definitely the more difficult reading. It seems as if Midian should have been mentioned earlier so that there would make sense, but it
Right.
has a decent claim to being original in Jubilees, since the Latin could be a correction from the vague adverb to the more specific, the land of Midian, under the influence of Exodus 2:15. At any rate, while the place to which Moses fled is not in question, its name may not have been part of the text. So that's generally consistent, right? That something more specific usually is a correction of something, right?
I mean, it's I would say so. Although I would also point out that like what would somebody more likely change from one to another? So would they change a more vague thing to a more specific thing, or a specific thing to a vague thing?
And they've done both.
And in this instance, it's more specific in Exodus, which predates Jubilees.
Yeah.
And then there's a more specific version and a less specific version. The less specific version doesn't really make much sense, so it's probably the original one.
Sure.
Right? But there's a lot of things in the Bible that don't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of verses, like there's a surprising number of verses where altars like, yeah, this is just a specious translation. Nobody knows what this verse means.
Yeah, definitely. That does happen a lot, mostly because like if there's like an obscure word that we don't really know, we have to have like a best guess if we're doing a translation. So when they do translations, they're usually, doing it from etymology, which cannot tell you what the author at that time meant. Like, congratulations, you have figured out where the word came from in the root of the word. You still don't know what the author meant. Like, the word pathetic comes from what? Pathos, right?
Path.
No, from, pathos in Greek.
Yeah.
But they mean completely different things. Like if
it has pat at the beginning, which is paternal Latin.
It's a Greek thing, anyways.
I don't know. Is the root Latin or Greek?
It's Greek.
Not doing a spelling bee here.
Just saying it's Greek.
Okay. You can say it's Greek. I'm going to say it's
I'm pretty sure it's Greek.
Aramaic.
You can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Ethiopia.
But either way, they mean different things. So just because you know the etymology does not mean you know the meaning of the word.
Yeah. Speaking of Ethiopic, is there a term in Ethiopic for their own language?
I'm pretty sure it's Gez.
Gaz.
Well, that's for like church Ethiopic. I don't know if that's for modern Ethiopic. I have no idea.
Strange.
Oh, no, that's Amharic. Modern Ethiopic is Amharic.
And here they're referring to Gez texts.
Yes.
Okay. I wonder how close the one is to the other.
I couldn't tell you.
Well, why don't we keep going here?
Yeah. Then you returned to Egypt in the second week, during the second year in the 50th Jubilee, 2410. You know who spoke to you at Mount Sinai and what the prince of Mastema wanted to do to you while you were returning to Egypt on the way at the shady fir tree. The shady fir tree. I like that. Did he not wish with all his strength to kill you and to save the Egyptians from your power because he saw that you were sent to carry out punishment and revenge on the Egyptians? So yeah, that's instead of putting the power on God, the acts on God.
Mm-hmm.
Now Moses is carrying these things out. Moses is the powerful one.
Yeah.
Because at least in Genesis, it was God who was the powerful one.
Mm-hmm. The text seems to be saying that the Lord himself, who had just sent Moses back to Egypt to lead the Exodus in response to the cry of his people, now wants to kill him. In Exodus. So this verse 2, right?
Yeah.
You know who spoke to you at Mount Sinai, returning to Egypt on the way to this shady fir tree, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And apparently there are different readings of the phrase.
Yeah, well, it says the report about the second incident mentioned in the verse is a remarkable example of rewriting. The references to the strange episode related in Exodus 4:24-26. On the way, at a place where they spent the night, the Lord met him and tried to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, "Truly you are a bridegroom of blood to me." So she let him alone. It was then, she said, a bridegroom of blood by circumcision.
Okay.
I don't remember
I am
that.
so lost. I
Uh,
also don't remember
Open
that.
this to Exodus 4:24-26.
Is that
That-
was weird?
Yeah,
Is that how that went down?
was-
apparently.
Something weird.
Exodus 4:20,
4:24-26.
4:24. Okay.
It's I'll read this. The text seems to be saying that the Lord himself, who had just sent Moses back to Egypt to lead the Exodus in response to the cry of his people, now wants to kill him. Moses' wife Zipporah circumcises their son Gershom and touches someone's feet with the foreskin. Moses appears to be the one at whose feet she places it because she refers to the person involved as a bridegroom. Hardly an appropriate term for their son.
Shit. Yeah, and it happened on the way at the night camp that the Lord encountered him and sought to put him to death. And Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched it to his feet. And she said, "Yes, a bridegroom of blood you are to me." And he let him go. Then did he say, "A bridegroom of blood by the circumcising"?
How do we
Wow.
not remember this?
I
There
don't
was
know.
a lot of weird shit happening.
Holy crap!
You'd
man.
think we would have remembered that, because I mean I remember the whole circumcision thing
Yeah,
and how he was supposed to circumcise all the members of the house and
of
whatnot,
course.
right? But I don't remember that shit.
Well, this says in the Jubilees version of the story, there's no reference to circumcising or circumcision, and the one who wants to kill Moses is Mastema, who makes his first appearance in the text since 1928 and takes up his first active in the role in the narrative since 1716, 18, 9, and 12. The near sacrifice of Isaac.
This is why we reanalyze these things, because shit,
Yeah, it's
man,
so good that
everyone
we're-
forgot that, even me.
Good that we're doing that.
Yeah, so the Book of Jubilees is not the only source that credits the strange action of the Lord in Exodus 4:24-26, specifically his attempt to slay Moses, to another agent. So the Septuagint tradition for the pericope and all the Targums introduce another character or characters into the account. So Exodus
I see.
4:24, Masoretic text, Syriac Pentateuch, Peshitta. The Lord met him and tried to kill him. Septuagint and dependent translations. An angel of the Lord met him and was seeking to kill him.
So
Targums, Ungelos, Neophiti. Okay, so Ungelos says an angel of the Lord met him and sought to kill him. Neophiti says an angel from before the Lord overtook him and sought to kill him. Pseudo-Jonathan says the angel of the Lord met him and sought to kill him. So 4:25, and touched Moses' feet with it, the foreskin.
yeah.
Fragment Targum says, and presented it at the feet of the destroyer to save the bridegroom from the hands of the angel of death. Targum Neophiti, and brought it near the feet of the destroyer. Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, and brought the circumcised foreskin to the feet of the destroying angel.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 4:26.
That's a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, 4:26 in Exodus. So he let him alone, a bridegroom of blood by circumcision. Fragment Targum. When the destroyer let him go, saved this bridegroom from the hands of the angel of death. Targum Neophiti. And the angel let go from him that has delivered this bridegroom from the hands of the angel of death. Targum Pseudo Jonathan. And the destroying angel left him alone that saved the bridegroom from the hands of the destroying angel. So, yeah, there are tons of differences in the account. So
every commentary pretty much has like a slightly different explanation to that.
yeah.
Like, I mean, some of them are more different than others, obviously.
Mm.
Like, I don't see like a huge difference between like an angel and like the angel. Like, that's not like a
But the
massive
angel of
one.
death and the destroying angel.
Yeah. And and they change up who the object is too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a lot. All right, let's continue here. This is revenge through the 10 plagues. So now the angel is telling Moses about how the plagues happened.
Yeah.
Let's see what the angel has to say. I rescued you from his power. You performed the signs and miracles that you were sent to perform in Egypt against Pharaoh, all his house, his servants, and his nation.
So the angel is confirming here that angel specifically rescued Moses.
Well, the whole thing is, if you remember, all the angel stuff in that we covered in Genesis, it seemed like angels were just like some kind of avatar or manifestation of God in a certain way.
Yeah, well, here it says the angel informs Moses that he was the one responsible for rescuing him from Mastema.
Yes, it was
Right.
that pinky.
So-
that particular pinky of God that helped him.
Yeah.
This God has
Yeah.
a lot of pinkies.
Yeah,
The
more or
angel
less.
of the presence is an opponent of Mastema. He rescues Moses from him and will assist in saving the Israelites, while Mastema wants to kill Moses and save the Egyptians. The angel also introduces the next subject, the plagues. So,
The Lord effected a great revenge against them on account of Israel. He struck them and killed them with blood, frogs, gnats, dogflies, bad sores that break out in boils. And he struck their cattle with death and with hailstones. With these, he annihilated everything that was growing for them, with locusts that ate whatever was left for them from the hail, with darkness, and with the death of their firstborn of men and cattle.
so in Exodus,
Let me just finish the verse. It's one more line.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Lord took revenge on all their gods and burned them up.
Okay, so between Exodus and Jubilees, the lists of plagues are the same, except for the order of plagues 5 and 6, where in Exodus, pestilence on the livestock occurs before boils or sores. Right. Also, Exodus says boils. Jubilees says sores. Jubilees says dog flies. Exodus just says flies. Jubilees says...
Well, they're big flies, big and scary flies.
Yeah, Jubilees says hailstones. Exodus says thunder and hail. So, these 10 plagues the writer of Jubilees understood as vengeance that the Lord wreaked on the gods of Egypt.
And the thing is, there have been hypotheses. I don't know if there's more commentary on that, but there have been hypotheses that the Exodus narrative, that part, the plagues part, was written as a polemic against the gods of Egypt.
Mm.
So I don't know if there's more of an excursus on that. I think Sarna actually discusses that view in one of his books.
There is a
But
little bit here.
Every time I read like one of Sarna's books, like after like the first few pages, I realize that he has like personal qualms with me, like just as a person. So
Yeah.
like I really get uninvested.
Who has what with you now?
Sarna, remember the we used one of his books.
Well, he
for-
hates ex-Jews.
Yeah, he hates ex-Jews
Oh,
basically.
no.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So there's a bit about Egypt here. The
Guess he
theme of
doesn't hate me since I was never formally
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
religion.
exactly. You
Oh wow, I should totally hang out with him and tell you what's
Yeah.
up.
No,
No,
we
course.
had one of his books here when we were reading Psalms.
I remember.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's not like he had nothing useful to say. He was just
Obnoxious.
Yeah, obnoxious.
Yeah. So the theme of repaying the gods of Egypt comes from Exodus 12:12. See Numbers 33:4, where the Lord says to Moses regarding the 10th plague, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human beings and animals. On all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord." This is
Judgment 666.
This is one of the passages. It also happens in Numbers 33:4, in which Septuagint renders "I will execute judgments" as "I will execute vengeance." A prediction by the Lord in Exodus becomes a report of something accomplished in Jubilees. As for burning the gods of Egypt, i.e. their idols, the note may be an early witness to a way of understanding God's revenge or judgment on the Egyptian deities as absolutely thorough. Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, Exodus 12:12, reads, "I will execute 4 judgments on all the idols of Egypt. The molten idols will be melted. The idols of stone will be smashed. The idols of clay will be reduced to shards. And the idols of wood will be reduced to ashes, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord." So
Yeah, so a lot of these things line up with the theology of the exile. Of course, gotta get rid of those idols. Religion is aniconic now, so no imagery of any sorts. So this is that fits in line with it.
carry on.
And with that being said, we're not going to do imagery anymore. Just cut the video
All right,
feed here.
everybody.
Yep,
We'll
yep.
see you later.
Yeah, right.
No, we're kidding. We're still here. Okay,
Obviously.
let's continue here. Everything was sent through you before it was done, so that you should do it. You were speaking with the king of Egypt and in front of all his servants and his people. Everything happened by your word. 10 great and severe punishments came to the land of Egypt so that you could take revenge on it for Israel. The Lord did everything for the sake of Israel and in accord with his covenant that he made with Abraham to take revenge on them, just as they were enslaving them with force.
Yes, the notions of punishment and revenge are certainly significant in the author's understanding of the plagues. He could take the theme of punishment from the references to God's judging the Egyptians, Exodus 6:6, 7:4, 12:12, Numbers 33:4. But in Exodus, the plagues play the role of convincing Pharaoh to allow the Israelites to leave, e.g. 7:14.
Even though God hardened his heart, but whatever. We don't talk about that.
In some passages, for just a 3-day trip to worship their God, 8:27, in Hebrew, 8:23 is one, or to prove that the Lord is supreme, 7:5-17, 8:10, 22, Hebrew 7:6, 18, 9:14, 16, 30. The plagues are not said to be punishments for how the Egyptians had mistreated the Hebrews, but see Nehemiah 9:9. Genesis 15:14 probably was the source for connecting divine punishment or judgment with the oppression that preceded it. It may also have been suggested by Exodus 4:22-23. "Then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my firstborn son. I said to you, let my son go, that he may worship me. But you refused to let him go. Now I will kill your firstborn son."
Ooh, poetic. "The prince of Mastema would stand up against you and wish to make you fall into Pharaoh's power.
The rest of the chapter is going to be focusing on Mastema.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. He would help the Egyptian magicians, and they would oppose you and perform in front of you."
This is a reference to turning the things to snakes.
Yeah. "We permitted them to do evil things, but we would not allow healings to be performed by them." So of course they're giving the
Sith powers.
They're
They got the Sith powers, but they don't get to heal nobody. That makes sense.
yeah. Well, they are. They have been granted these magical powers by God, but the thing is, they're only given the evil ones. They
Mhm.
can only do the evil ones. They can't do any of the good stuff because they're not allowed to. God said no. You know, maybe they
Earthquake is too good for you. It's a higher level spell.
Yeah, they So it talks about the plagues and how
So like
the Egyptian magicians would repeat their successes by bringing even more frogs on Egypt at the time of the second plague, 8-7, Hebrew 8-3.
okay, so because they couldn't do the good stuff, they instead just made the bad stuff worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, and obviously, you know, this is a way for the author to, because you know the Egyptian magicians could do stuff, like they were
Yeah.
doing, you know, the
Ancient Egyptian magic.
yes, they were doing ancient Egyptian magic, and that
So
that would
this is
that would
a-
have
Wait,
some.
I don't know how, but somehow we should get a T-shirt.
So preventing
If
Mastamar,
Landon wins.
preventing Mastamar's allies from performing cures recalls the story in Jubilees 10:1 through 13, in which the angels of the presence revealed to Noah medicines for counteracting the diseases and deceptions caused by Mastema and his evil spirits. Healing did not belong in his portfolio.
Well, that's just. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
All right.
so the Egyptian magicians are also unable to nullify the effects of the plagues.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, they're just screwed, man.
All we know how to do is enhance the plague.
That'd be a neat trick. When the Lord struck them with bad sores, they were unable to oppose you because we deprived them of their ability to perform any sign at all, except for the evil ones.
No.
Despite all the signs and miracles, the prince of Mastapa was not ashamed until he gained strength and cried out to the Egyptians to pursue you with all the Egyptian army, with their chariots, their horses, and with all the throng of the Egyptian people. I stood between you, the Egyptians, and the Israelites. We rescued the Israelites from his power and from the power of the people.
So in Jubilees 48:13, it says, I stood between you, the Egyptians, and the Israelites. Exodus 14:19 through 20 says, the angel of God who was going before the Israelite army moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and took its place behind them. It came between the army of Egypt and the army of Israel. So this is what it's referring to. So the angel of the presence is defined then as the angel of God that was with them, accompanying the pillar of cloud
Oh, okay.
or smoke or whatever it was.
The Lord brought them out through the middle of the sea as if on dry ground. All of the people whom he brought out to pursue the Israelites, the Lord our God threw into the sea, to the depths of the abyss, in place of the Israelites, just as the Egyptians had thrown their sons into the river.
Yeah, the sons of the Israelites, not
Gotcha.
the Egyptian
Okay,
sons.
makes sense.
Um,
He took revenge on 1 million of them, 1,000 strong men, and also officers eager for battle perished for one infant of your people, whom they had thrown into the river.
wow.
Yeah, so for every child that died, an Egyptian died.
Million
No,
of
no. For every Hebrew that died,
Yeah.
1,000 strong men of the Egyptians were drowned in place of one Israelite.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he killed 1 million of them. That's like, that is genocide.
I mean, I'd say
It's
so.
not a complete genocide, but it is genocide.
It is the genocide. Let's continue on here. So we just got done killing a bunch of Egyptians. On the 14th day, the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, and the 18th, the prince of Mastema was bound and locked up behind the Israelites so that he could not accuse them. On the 19th day, we released them so that they could help the Egyptians and pursue the Israelites.
What verse is that?
That's verse 16. A couple of Ethiopic copies read him and he for they in the result clause that follows.
Okay, so the reader learns about the limits placed by the angels of the presence on Mastema and his forces. It turns out that was 16.
Yeah, I just finished 16.
Yeah, there's a note on 15.
Okay, that would be pretty important too, because probably some context for the locking up, bound and locked up behind.
Yeah, the days when Mastema and his agents were made prisoners are the 5 days beginning with the date of Passover, 14th, and continuing through the 18th. Of these days, 15 through 18 would fall in time for the festival of unleavened bread. The purpose for restraining Mastema and the others is in part so that the Israelites could place some distance between themselves and the Egyptians. The book of Exodus is not generous with dates in chapters 12 through 15. The 10th plague struck at the time when Israelites were celebrating the first Passover. That very night, Pharaoh ordered Moses and Aaron to lead the people with their possessions from Egypt. The Israelites then exited Egypt quickly before the dough from their bread could rise. There's no time indicator for how long it took them to reach the sea. Only their stopping places are noted. When they were at the sea, the Lord drove it back at night, and by the time of the next morning, watched the Egyptians were dead. The Jubilees add some details to this modest space. The Israelites traveled from the 15th through the 18th and were unhindered by mischief. So
on the 16th, sorry, it's not on the 16th. On
there is no note on verse 16.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious about like on the 19th day.
Yeah.
We released them so that they could help the Egyptians and pursue the Israelites.
Well,
that sounds like a weird verse to me unless I'm totally misinterpreting it.
yeah, that is a weird verse. 19th day we released them so that they could help the Egyptians. There is a textual note. Let me see what the textual
Yeah, the only
says.
textual note I have is a couple of Ethiopic copies read him and he for they.
Him. The overwhelming preponderance of manuscript evidence favors them, that is, Mastema and his forces, although they have not been mentioned in chapter 48. Seagull and Werman counter, however, that even with so little support, the reading him is to be preferred because the writer in this context must be referring to Mastema. The plural is surprising but hardly impossible. Does have the textual evidence on its side. They could help, could be he could help. Yeah, that's all they say about it.
And so I'm guessing it's a like verse 15 and 16 commentary, right? Like put together?
No.
Oh.
15. 17.
So hold
Holiday completely ignored Jubilees 48:16.
Hold on. Let me see that. Please. Just what the fuck? Why would that
It's a Christmas miracle.
15? What?
A happy holiday.
Why? Why would he ignore that?
Because it was inconvenient to his theology? I don't know.
An inconvenience.
And it's not like we're missing a page.
No, we're not missing a page. We read the textual notes. That is what it says. He just doesn't have any commentary on it.
Well then.
He has extensive commentary for every other verse in all of Jubilees.
Wow.
But not this one. Nope.
That is
Not even mentioned.
well, the only thing he says is, wow. It's not Holiday. It would be Vanderkam, but still.
Vanderkam, yeah. I was looking at Jeremiah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sorry, Vanderkam. Usually you're pretty good.
Yeah, what? That's so weird.
Why don't you call him? What's his phone number?
Oh yeah, I do have
Call him out.
access to his phone number.
We have access to some biblical scholars who might be able to ask him.
Perhaps. Oh my God, that's so weird. That's a bummer because that is a confusing ass verse.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be
Nothing,
obsessing.
and
I'm gonna
nothing
be obsessing about
we
this all
didn't
day.
introduce the books at the beginning of the show. I have the Hermenia translation Jubilees by James C. Vanderkam.
You know what? Me too.
This one
he's
has
got
commentary.
Yeah, he's got the commentary.
We had introduced it pretty late.
Yeah.
But we have more viewers now than we had then.
Books are introduced. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Just the verse is just not there. Okay. All right, Vanderkam. I see your oversight,
lack of
and
commentary on this.
I suppose I will spend half of my life dedicating myself to the craft of making sure you realize the mistake.
Let me see.
Fix this.
I have some online sources.
I mean, I'm gonna continue reading, but maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll read over it again and post something later. We'll try to figure it out. We can do it. We got this. So anyways, yeah, weird verse. On the 19th day, we released them so that they could help the Egyptians and pursue the Israelites. He hardened their hearts.
Okay. I found one thing. Angels and demons in the book of Jubilees and contemporary.
Well, that's remember because Mastema is like
and contemporary apocalypses. This is by C. Rowland. They say Jubilees presents demons as an explanation for whatever power might be perceived in foreign nations, sometimes sent by God.
Yes, that does make sense. But also Rowland is like very more on the literalist side.
He's a young earther.
Well, I don't know if he's a young.
Becker
I don't know if
or
he's a young
whatever.
earther, but
The lady who always goes to Enoch.
okay, no, not quite that.
No, she's something special.
So pretty much no scholar, at least no non confessional scholar would think that John of Patmos, the author of Revelation, actually had those visions. They'd be like, this is, obviously someone put a lot of thought into this. All the imagery means something and we can tie it to something else. So he was, an author who, he came up with this stuff. He used, a lot of influences that were, in the Old Testament and whatnot, but it was still like, it's a literary work, just like every other apocalypse.
Well, why not? Why couldn't he have taken some magic mushrooms? And
He could have, but I don't think it would have been nearly as coherent.
I mean,
Because
haven't you ever read The
Revelation.
Gates of Perception or the Illuminatus trilogy
No.
or like any of the extensive psychedelic literature that's out there? Like not only fictional accounts, but like people's personal account. Like
People have
there's-
different reactions to different things.
there's
Anyways, it
so
could
many
be
things out there.
it could definitely be psychedelic in nature and not be incomprehensible or gibberish.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not
You can
talking
have
about.
a vision quest.
Yeah.
that-
Sure, I'm not talking about. I wouldn't expect it to be absolute gibberish or anything, necessarily. But I would say that the imagery is just too damn deep, and I don't think that would have been accomplishable, with, if you were hallucinating.
Have you ever heard of dimethyltryptamine?
No.
You don't hallucinate, Lawrence. You got to remember that.
Yeah, you'll go
At least
to
not
another
often for you, I don't
dimension. and encounter strange like cyber elves.
I don't think you go to another dimension.
Okay, yeah, you don't go to another dimension. You should look into it though. It's nuts. No, people's hallucinations are like completely realistic, like to them, to the point where that, and it's like based off of stuff that they know. So if they're like involving themselves with this kind of literature on a daily basis, and then they trip balls on something like DMT,
Even if like they have
Sure,
like
like,
a buildup of a chemical in their brain that gives them a trip because they've been staring at something for hours.
yeah, like you
That-
started tripping a little
exactly.
bit when we did the
Black
demon
Mirror.
summoning, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
No, seriously, just staring
yeah.
at the same thing for hours
Yeah.
can result in the brain releasing different chemicals, or just being in the dark too. So
Yeah, no, I understand.
coulda just
I
tripped
understand
out
where
in
you're
his
coming
head.
from, but
So
I
we'll
don't
assume
think-
that he didn't trip balls, but he might have.
he definitely had some
No,
sort
the
of
thing is,
experience
it
in his
is-
head.
I don't know if you've. I mean, we'll get to Revelation, obviously, but once we do get to Revelation, like you're gonna see exactly how intricate that imagery is, and I honestly don't think that level of intricacy could have been accomplished.
Well, we'll see.
I don't know. I think there have
Maybe
been
he was a very
longer-
lucid man, and we're just wrong, and it'll
It's
be
not,
obvious.
it's not just about like vivid descriptions and stuff like that. Like it's about how everything is interconnected. Like that level of writing.
Well, it's not like someone trips balls, like
and loses their skills.
is an orator, and has someone copy down. Okay, just write down everything that I say, and we're not going to go back and edit anything, right?
Okay.
Like
Fair enough, right?
I think Bukowski said that you should write while drunk and
Then
edit while sober.
I mean, fair enough.
That's a way to put it.
That would have been quite a long process, but either way it would have been a long process, I guess.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah, he was like, yeah, he probably had these actual visions. That's Rowland's
Okay.
kind of point of view.
So that's why we don't like. Anyway, all Rowland said was that Jubilees 48:16 is evidence that demons are occasionally sent by God.
Yeah, which makes sense. Lines up with the theology, at least.
Things like this.
So, coming off that diatribe there. So either way, it seems that the army of Mastema.
Oh yeah, there is one bit here. They say the pursuit of the Israelites began on the 19th of the first month, when the angel of the presence and his friends released Mastema and his allies so that they could make the Egyptians chase the Israelites. That's all they say about it.
Wow, they just
But it's not in its own section.
no,
It's
and
verse
it's also
16.
just the verse.
Yeah, it's just the verse. Brilliant.
Why? Let's continue here. He hardened their hearts and made them strong. That maybe there's like a point here. So
Yeah.
let's we'll find out.
Okay.
So yeah, on the 19th day we released them so that they could help the Egyptians and pursue the Israelites. He hardened their hearts and made them strong. They were made strong by the Lord our God so that he could strike the Egyptians and oh, I see. So that he could strike them, strike the Egyptians and throw them into the sea. On the 14th day, we bound him so that he could not accuse the Israelites.
Yeah, so striking
what?
appears
So hold
to
on.
be a word for a plague, although it's
Well,
not
yeah.
used for them in Ethiopic Exodus. Throwing refers to God's way of executing the Egyptians in the sea.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's try to line this up here. So it goes back to the 14th day, right? But
Mhm.
we want to know what happened on the 19th day.
Mhm.
On the 14th day, he was bound up, right? And then, the days pass. Then on the 19th day, he's released. And then, so he hardened their hearts and made them strong. They were made strong by the Lord so that he could. So
So you're
is
at the
Lord,
beginning of verse 18?
Well, yes.
So the author, the final episode in the chapter is the despoiling of the Egyptians.
Yeah,
To
so
describe it, the author returns to day 14 when the angel of the presence imprisoned Mastema so that he could not carry out his accusing function, when the Israelites were requesting goods from the Egyptians. By placing the request on the 14th, the writer shows how he has read the 3 references to the despoiling in Exodus. In 3:21 through 22, the Lord predicts it will happen. In 11:2 through 3, before the 10th plague, Moses receives orders to tell the Israelites to make the request. And in 12:35 through 36, the narrator refers back to it after the 10th plague. In Jubilees, the Israelites asked for and received the goods on the 14th, and they began celebrating the first Passover that evening.
Okay. So basically God is building up the Egyptians so he can knock them down?
I guess. It's just...
Or is this like another way to give like power to God? Like the only reason that they were able to even get that far was because God allowed it. That's the best I can come up with
here.
here.
It just seems like he's arbitrarily making more conflict happen.
I suppose.
Which reminds me, I gotta fight you guys. Right now.
After the show, man.
No, arbitrarily, right now. No.
Yeah, you just cold clock Lawrence in the face.
Just run up there.
Like, all right, I'll get you after the show, you little scamp. All right. Let's continue here. On the 14th day, we bound him so that he could not accuse the Israelites on the day when they were requesting utensils and clothing from the Egyptians, utensils of silver, utensils of gold, and utensils of bronze, so that they could plunder the Egyptians in return for the fact that they were made to work when they enslaved them by force.
So plunder seems a rather strong term for obtaining a gift of goods from a group that regards the recipients with favor.
Yeah.
Is just the right term in Jubilees because it's the way the Egyptians repaid the Israelites for the slave labor extracted by force they had supplied. The spoiling as repayment is a theme in other texts as well. Genesis 15:14, where God predicts the Israelites will come out of Egypt with great possessions after he judged their oppressors, might have suggested the idea, but it's explicit in Wisdom 10:17. Wisdom gave to holy people the reward of their labors, and particularly in Philo's Moses 141, see also 142, quote, "For they took out with them much spoil, which they carried partly on their backs, partly laid on the beasts of burden. And they did this not in avarice, or as their accusers might say, in covetousness of what belonged to others. No, indeed, in the first place, they were but receiving a bare wage for all their time of service. Secondly, they were retaliating, not on an equal, but on a lesser scale for their enslavement. It was only fair that the Egyptians, at least in a small way, compensated the Israelite slaves for their long labors."
All right. Continuing on here. And this is the last verse of the chapter. We did not bring the Israelites out of Egypt empty-handed. So I guess this kind of this just raised them up so they could have something the Israelites could get.
Well, it raised them up so that God could make good on his promise in Genesis to provide the Israelites who are exiting Egypt with great plunder and spoils.
Yeah, okay. That's
he
weird
just
reason,
forced
but okay.
a bunch of people. Essentially, God just stole from these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
This is
it's
theft.
God. He could have accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. It's God.
When it says "Thou shalt not steal," does not say "I shall not steal."
No, of course.
Does not lead by example.
Not at all. All right, so now we are done with that chapter, and we are at chapter 49.
Yes, we are. And if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things.
And all of the things are great, aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah. All right,
So why don't I hop into it then? Chapter 49, verse 1. Now this is its own subsection. It says the timing of Passover.
Yes.
Remember the commandments that the Lord gave you regarding the Passover, so that you may celebrate it at its time on the 14th of the first month, that you may sacrifice it before the evening, and so that they may eat it at night on the evening of the 15th month from the time of sunset. Now we're into the first Passover. For on this night, it was the beginning of the festival. This is the 14th of the first month.
Mhm.
It was the beginning of the festival and the beginning of joy. You were eating the Passover in Egypt when all the forces of Mastema were sent to kill every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from Pharaoh's firstborn to the firstborn of the captive slave girl at the millstone, and to the cattle as well. Right. So Mastema was originally sent to kill the Egyptians. I guess Mastema would just kill everyone if they were not stopped.
So the account of what happened to the Egyptians that night resembles the one in Exodus 12:29, although it blends into an element from the parallel in Exodus 11:5, Moses' announcement of the final plague. So the Exodus passage, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And then the Jubilees verse, all the forces of Mastema were sent to kill every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from Pharaoh's firstborn to the firstborn of the captive slave girl and the millstone, and to the cattle as well. The phrase chosen for the least fortunate in societal standing among the parents of a dead child, the firstborn of the captive slave girl at the millstone, is taken from Exodus 11:5, the firstborn of the female slave who was behind the handmill. One could regard 11:5 as the base for all the material here in Jubilees, but it formulates the beginning of the line in a different way. Quote, every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. At that point, Exodus 12:29 and Jubilees 49:2 name the entity responsible for striking and killing the Egyptian firstborn. The Lord in Exodus, the forces of Mastema and Jubilees.
Right.
Here,
and Mastema also...
That's supposed to be the name for some demon, right? Some evil force.
He's also named as the one who wanted to kill Moses on the way to the shady fir tree. You know, the destroying angel thing that we read earlier. He's also the one who is bound up and locked. So it's really strange that they present this in this order, because it makes Mastema hard to understand.
Yeah.
But from what I can gather, he was sent there specifically by God to just wipe out all the firstborn.
It looks like this Mastema means some evil force.
Yeah. It says, this is the sign that the Lord gave them. Into each house on whose door they saw the blood of a year-old lamb, they were not to enter that house to kill, but were to pass over it, in order that all who were in the house would be spared, because the sign of the blood was on its door. The Lord's forces did everything that the Lord ordered them. They passed over all the Israelites. The plague did not come on them to destroy any of them, from cattle to humans to dogs. The plague on Egypt was very great. There was no house in Egypt in which there was not a dead person, crying and mourning. All Israel was eating the paschal meat, drinking the wine, and glorifying, blessing, and praising the Lord God of their fathers. They were ready to leave the Egyptian yoke and evil slavery. So,
you just finished verse 6, right?
I just finished verse 6. Okay. So Mastema was sent there to kill all of the firstborn. We get the blood of the lamb over the door as a sign to the forces of Mastema not to kill them. And then later on, while they're leaving, Mastema is tied up and bound so that they have an opportunity to escape.
Gotcha. Okay. So, here's a little bit more on Mastema. Here, not for the first time, a negative action, a cruel deed, because it involves the execution of many innocent people performed by God in Genesis. Exodus is laid to the charge of Mastema and Jubilees. In Genesis, Exodus is laid to the charge of Mastema and Jubilees. His minions are those who carry out the 10th plague. So in attributing the murderous deeds to the forces of Mastema, the writer is consistent with his statement in 48:15 that Mastema himself was locked up on the 14th and 15th. It was therefore not Mastema himself, but his forces that carried out the 10th plague. And then on verse 4, the fact of the Lord's control over the actions of the executors that night comes to expression at the beginning of verse 4. Here, quite appropriately, the ones called the forces of Mastema in verse 2 are termed the Lord's forces because they do his bidding. They kill the firstborn in every home not marked with blood on its doors. They bypass the Israelite houses, whose residents, as a result, remain completely safe. Of course, that's the same thing that we saw in Exodus. So, yeah, just some evil, powerful force that I suppose executes.
Yes.
So
Now,
see, now all that stuff makes sense.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Now, you remember this day throughout all your lifetime. Celebrate it from year to year throughout all your lifetime, once a year in its day in accord with all of its law. Then you will not pass over a day from the day or from month to month, for it is an eternal statute. And it is engraved on the heavenly tablets regarding the Israelites that they are to celebrate it each and every year on its day, once a year, throughout their entire history. There is no temporal limit because it is ordained forever. The man
They were even doing it in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Angels were doing it.
Angels must be doing it because the Levites would have to do it.
Yeah.
And angels have to do everything.
Yeah.
Woo. The man who is pure but does not come to celebrate it on its prescribed day, to bring a sacrifice that is pleasing to the Lord and to eat and drink before the Lord on the day of festival, that man who is pure and is nearby is to be uprooted because he did not bring the Lord's sacrifice at his time. That man will bear the responsibility for his own sin. The Israelites are to come and celebrate the Passover on its specific day, on the 14th of the first month, between the evenings, from the third part of the day until the third part of the night. For 2 parts of the day have been given for light, and its third part for the evening. Wow, it sounds like Enoch.
Yeah, a little bit. That's how time works.
Shout out.
This is what the Lord commanded you, to celebrate it between the evenings. It is not to be sacrificed at any hour of daylight, but in the hour of the boundary of the evening, so twilight.
Yeah.
They will eat it during the evening hours until the third part of the night. Any of its meat that is left over from the third part of the night and beyond is to be burned. They are not to boil it in water nor eat it raw, but roast it on fire, cooked with care on a fire, the head with its internal parts and the feet. They are to roast it on a fire. There will be no breaking of any bone in it, because no bone of the Israelites will be broken. So they're referring to the meat that they're preparing.
Yeah. Well, now we know how to cook this stuff finally.
Yeah, you
That would have helped them out a while ago.
Put it on top of fire.
Yeah.
That's how you cook it.
Incredible. But see, maybe they were just...
this is a really bad way, actually. They leave all of its internal parts, and they don't attempt to work with the meat at all.
No, because it was alive. You don't want to mess with it too much. You just want the meat.
That's...
Bad.
There's a whole thing about blood.
Guarantee consistency in the cooking, the quality of the meat. It would probably turn out that you're losing a good portion of the meat because it's just burnt to a crisp.
Yeah.
In order so that the center pieces are able to be eaten.
You usually wrap the meat in something, even like leaves.
Yeah.
And then bury it and then put heat on top of it.
You gotta do exactly what Jubilees says.
They also specify not to eat it raw.
Yeah.
Because are Israelites eating a lot of raw meat at this point in time?
Because remember, it's or maybe somebody is. But remember the whole not drinking blood thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's raw, it would be very bloody.
I guess. That's gross, man.
Yes.
You ever just take a bite out of a cow?
No.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Me
Swat
neither.
Yeah. Ruben.
Yeah, no.
Therefore, the Lord ordered the Israelites to celebrate the Passover on its specific day. No bone of it is to be broken because it's a festal day, and that day has been commanded. From it, there is to be no passing over a day from the day, or a month from the month, because it's celebrated on the festal day. Now, you order the Israelites to celebrate the Passover each year during their generations, once a year on a specific day. Then a pleasing memorial will come before the Lord, and no plague will come upon them to kill and strike them during that year when they have celebrated the Passover at its time in every respect, as it was commanded. Now we're in a different subsection, the proper place for
Woo.
Woohoo. Yeah, not a lot of commentary we could provide on this. It's just like, this is where you celebrate it. This is how you celebrate it.
It's very Leviticus.
Yeah.
Almost a list, you could say.
It's not therefore to be eaten outside of the Lord's sanctuary, but before the Lord's sanctuary. All the people... What?
Yeah, so that's...
Okay. The
Verse
Lord's
16.
sanctuary. Let's... In Exodus, an extensive amount of time is spent setting up the tabernacle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tent. That was not mentioned at all, even once. In the entire Moses story that was told, they didn't make any mention of a tabernacle in Jubilees. So,
also,
as far as I know, there is no sanctuary of the Lord, at least in Jubilees.
So, I just want to point out here, it looks like we were having some stream issues for a second. Because it said that there was no data coming in. So if there was...
Oh, we dropped 31 frames.
Okay.
That's not even a percent of a percent of a percent.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
Literally just said that no data was coming in earlier. So hopefully...
I doubt anyone
the
will
stream
notice
didn't
the 31s.
end. Hopefully we're still here and doing good.
Oh, you are.
Okay. Chat, let us know if everything's good on your
very
end.
brief glitch.
I'm sure it is. Let's keep going.
Oh yeah, and here's another thing that's
Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming.
Okay, that is what we're getting.
Huh. Well, that's
What
not
is
happening in OBS.
happening?
I don't know, man.
But you can look at the stream itself.
Yeah, we see the stream, but we are getting a lot of notices that it would buffer a lot, and yeah. So I don't know what's up with that.
Change the stream bitrate to what they suggest.
What do they suggest?
2500 KB per second.
So hopefully everything will be okay. But let's. So you were wondering about the first verse there, or verse 16?
Yeah, it just seems strange that they would say you have to do this outside the Lord's sanctuary when, one, they just described the first Passover, and there certainly was no Lord's sanctuary in Egypt at that time for Yahweh. And two, although the tabernacle is described in depth in Exodus, no mention of it's made in Jubilees until apparently up until this point right here.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't mention anything about building the tabernacle or traveling with it or any of the details about it. So what's this Lord's sanctuary? Like, is this supposed to be the temple? That doesn't pop up until Solomon.
I know that is way later, but I think they're referring to the festival itself. And if you're going to have a festival, then the actual Passover wouldn't count because it's not a festival. It's the thing that's happening. And then all subsequent things to celebrate would be the festivals, right? So I'm guessing that this is just remember to, if you're going to celebrate it in the temple and whatnot. So the initial rule is that the Passover is a festival that is to be observed at the sanctuary. So the translation in what we have literally just this reading. Reads, "It is no longer to be eaten outside the Lord's sanctuary. Upon further reflection."
Right, that's listed in the next verse. "Every man who has come on its day, who is 20 years of age and above, is to eat it in the sanctuary of your God before the Lord, because this is the way it has been written and ordained, that they are to eat it in the Lord's sanctuary."
So this is interesting. Here's a note from Vanderkam about his own translation. So the word that he translated as no longer, I guess. I think that'd be part of it. Enka. Upon further reflection, this appears to be an inaccurate rendering in context. The term Enka can have the meanings so or then. Therefore, wherefore, now, then, forthwith, yet, and so. As Kugel has noted,
some of those are contradictory.
Yeah, I know. They can be. The rendering no longer quote, "would seem to presume the prior existence of a sanctuary, and this would not fit into the perspective of the author who sets the revelation of Jubilees on Mount Sinai before there was a sanctuary. He thinks the passage is from his interpolator. Since the point of verse 16 is to insist that the Israelites eat the Passover sacrifice at the tabernacle or temple, it is more likely that Enka conveys the nuance of therefore, tying this statement to the preceding one about celebrating the festival in every respect as it was commanded."
All right.
Yeah, so that does explain it, I think.
Yeah. "When the Israelites enter the land that they will possess, the land of Canaan, and set up the Lord's tabernacle in the middle of the land in one of their tribes until the time when the Lord's temple will be built in the land, they are to come and celebrate the Passover in the Lord's tabernacle and sacrifice it before the Lord from year to year." So imagine you're Moses, man.
No.
And you're in this situation, and this dude just starts talking about the Lord's tabernacle that the Israelites are going to build, and you're like, what?
A big tent? You want me to?
You
a
want
big
a tent?
tent?
I can build a tent. And they also, this is different because in Exodus, they build the tabernacle while they're traveling, right? It's not when they're in the land of Canaan.
Right. They do it in the desert.
Yeah. So that's strange. At that time, at the time when the house is built in the Lord's name in the land that they will possess, they are to go there and sacrifice the Passover in the evening when the sun sets in the third part of the day. They will offer its blood on the base of the altar. They are to place the fat on the fire that is above the altar, and are to eat its meat roasted on a fire in the courtyard of the sanctuary in the name of the Lord. I mean, yeah, obviously this is written by someone who must be familiar with the layout of the temple.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. They will not be able to celebrate the Passover in their cities or in any places except before the Lord's tabernacle or otherwise before the house in which his name has resided. Then they will not go astray from the Lord. So, like,
I mean, this is, most of the stuff that we learned from Leviticus.
Right, but it just seems like this is a person talking about the way that they celebrate Passover during their time.
Yeah.
And they're framing it as an angel speaking to Moses, and like, but the way that they frame it, it doesn't make sense for this angel to say this to Moses because it's so far off in the future from him, and it's irrelevant to the rest of his life.
Well, let me quick tell you about the Death Star.
It said specifically that he should celebrate the day throughout all of his lifetime. It says, now you remember this day through all your lifetime. Celebrate it from year to year all your lifetime. And then it gives conditions that he can't possibly meet.
Right. So he would have to inform the people about these traditions that should be upheld.
Yeah, but they're not traditions that he can uphold.
Right.
So he's not celebrating it properly.
Well, he can't celebrate it.
And they also, so he can't, one, because he never goes into the land of Canaan.
Yeah.
And two, because
even if we consider, we can take the tabernacle as like a house of the Lord kind of thing, right? So
but they say here that the tabernacle's not set up until they reach the land of Canaan. So there's no opportunity for Moses to make sacrifice and celebrate outside of the house of the Lord or the Lord's sanctuary. And so there's the thing that they say about in verse 9, the man who is pure but does not come to celebrate it on its prescribed day, being responsible for his own sin. They label it as a sin, right? So that means that Moses necessarily will be continually sinning, and that there's no possible way that he could not be. Like,
what's that noise that they make on The Price is Right or something when something goes bad? Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about these kind of things. The catch-22s, the gotchas for all the things that they have to have done these things exactly this way and they couldn't have.
Yeah, it happens. Let's see. What verse did you just finish?
I just finished verse 21.
21. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the last section, 22 through 23.
Okay. I mean, there's really not much that I see on on how he's supposed to celebrate these things. It's mostly just stuff on actual sacrifices and comparing them to stuff in the Deuteronomistic history.
Yeah.
And Chronicles, obviously.
He couldn't possibly have done it. So why is he being commanded to? Thank you.
Okay, so there are some hints in the narrative books of the Hebrew Bible that the Passover was observed in pre-temple times. Joshua 5:10 refers to, well, I mean, if you're talking about writing, this would be a little bit different. So I don't know what Vanderkam's view on this is.
Well, they say in Jubilees that the first Passover was celebrated like immediately after the firstborn Egyptians were killed.
So 2 Kings 23:22 says that Josiah's Passover, quote, no such Passover had been kept since the days of the judges who judged Israel, even during all the days of the kings of Israel and of the kings of Judah. So I mean, yeah, obviously that was going around for quite a while.
All right, let me finish this chapter then. Now you, Moses, order the Israelites to keep the statute of the Passover as it was commanded to you, so that you may tell them its year each year. Latin has throughout each and every year.
Yeah.
The time of the days and the festival of unleavened bread, so that they may eat unleavened bread for 7 days.
Yeah, perhaps
to celebrate its festival.
Yeah, perhaps the message he is to tell them is to celebrate the festival annually on the right day. Mm-hmm. But the phrases are difficult.
Yeah. To bring its sacrifice before the Lord on the altar of your God each day during those 7 joyful days. It's not very joyful to eat unleavened bread. I gotta tell you, it kind of sucks. For you celebrated this festival hastily when you were leaving Egypt, until the time you were crossing the sea into the wilderness of Shur, because you completed it on the seashore. So instead of doing this exclusively in the Lord's sanctuary like they just said to do, I guess Moses does this at the seashore. It's like, I'm going to go hang out on the beach and grill.
That was verse 23, right?
Yeah, that was the end of chapter 49.
All right, so before we hop into that, I do want to talk about
why don't you do that while I go to the bathroom?
Oh, all right then. I see how it is. Yeah, I'll mention the doing the little worship thing on the shore. So Jubilees leaves a different impression about the 7-day festival and offers something of a chronology for the time from the Exodus to the miracle at the sea. According to the writer, the Israelites actually celebrated the holiday as they raced out of Egypt, quote, until the time you were crossing the sea into the wilderness of Shur, because you completed it on the seashore. He does not explain exactly how many days it took Israel to reach the sea and how long they remained on the opposite shore, but it was apparently after they crossed the sea that the 7 days of the festival came to an end. Jubilees provides an explanation for why the holiday is to last 7 days. Exodus gives no such account. The first national observance of the festival of unleavened bread happened during and recalls the momentous days of the time they fled Egypt until they were safely across the unnamed body of water. In one of the Targums, I think, or in maybe the Talmud, I don't know, the lectionary section for the last day of Passover. Okay, so it's a passage about crossing the sea, and that one does not, sadly list any potential sea. Since they concluded the celebration on the shore, the 3-day march into the wilderness of Shur had not yet begun. Okay, so it doesn't seem like that was, part of the celebration. Or maybe that was the very end of the celebration. I don't know how they're dividing this up in a weird way, because the whole thing took a certain amount of days. I would guess that, because if the event is taking place over a certain amount of days, you have to celebrate it over a certain amount of days.
Well, it says to celebrate it 1 day, but the event takes place over a certain number of days, right? It mentions specifically to do 1 day.
Yeah.
Strange. I don't know why.
I don't know what to tell you there, because it's really weird.
I mean at least 1 day.
So it's like they're treating the. Sometimes it's like they're treating the actual event as their celebration of the event, but then other times it seems like they're not, and I feel like it would make more sense if they weren't.
It would make sense if the books that we read were consistent and well edited.
Okay, can you stop asking for too much?
Yeah, just use an outline next time, Jubilees.
The outline, that's for suckers.
Yeah, next time.
Not Vanderkam. Vanderkam's fine. I mean, original Jubilees author.
Yeah.
So, if you're enjoying the stream, we're about to finish the Book of Jubilees. So, it's a pretty short chapter here, too. There's a postscript.
Oh, I guess we'll maybe not read that. We'll see.
It's
a sentence. Yeah, we'll probably read that.
Yeah.
I know it's a whole extra sentence. I know it's a
so
lot.
Long. It's going to take this long.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so the final chapter in the Book of Jubilees reverts to topics that have been central to the author's concerns since the beginning of his narrative in chapter 2. The travels of the Israelites as they moved from the sea and into the wilderness of Shur, to Mara, Elim, and the wilderness of Sin. These find no place in the text. The wilderness of Sin gets a brief notice in Jubilees 51, only because the Lord revealed Sabbath laws there, in connection with the schedule by which he provided manna for the people. From there, Israel marched to Rephidim. Their complaints about a lack of water with the divine response, the subsequent attack by Amalek, the visit by Jethro, events that occupy 2 chapters in Exodus play no part in Jubilees. Even the presence of Israel at Mount Sinai receives notice in 52, only because of the sabbatical revelations that occurred there. Virtually all that the writer draws from the material after the Exodus and until Sinai concerns the Sabbath. In dealing with the Sabbath in relation to creation, Jubilees 2, and the Exodus, Jubilees 50, he echoes the formulations of the Sabbath law in Exodus 20:10 and Deuteronomy 5:14. The angel of the presence, by mentioning their encounter on Sinai, brings the story full circle. It began there with Moses' ascent and God's command to the angel that the angel revealed to Moses what was on the heavenly tablets in chapter 1. It ends with the two of them still on the mountain and the angel informing Moses about the Sabbath laws as he had at the end of the creation story.
Oh, fun. All right. Last chapter of Jubilees, chapter 50.
Yep.
After this law, I informed you about the Sabbath days in the wilderness of Sin that is between Elim and Sinai.
Yeah, in Exodus 16:1, it says, the whole congregation of the Israelites set out from Elim, and Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai.
The Ethiopian manuscript, the only version here, read Sinai, a mistake for the similar sin. Interesting. Okay. On Mount Sinai, I told you about the Sabbaths of the land and the years of Jubilees in the Sabbaths of the years. But its year we have not told you until the time when you enter the land that you will possess. The land will observe its Sabbaths when they live on it, and they are to know the year of Jubilee.
So he has in mind the time when the Israelites will cross into Canaan, after which the sabbatical and Jubilee cycles will run their course into an indefinite future.
Okay, so basically, so maybe the whole, worship calendar thing doesn't even start until they hit the land.
Yeah, which doesn't apply to Moses, of course.
Yeah. For this reason, I have arranged for you the weeks of years and jubilees, 49 jubilees from the time of Adam until today, and 1 week and 2 years. It is still 40 years off for learning the Lord's commandments until the time when he leads them across to the land of Canaan. Okay, so they have to wait longer now, because I think they got it earlier.
They wander 40 years in the desert.
Sure, but I thought they got it, before.
This year of the Exodus precedes the entry into the land by 40 years. See Numbers 14:33 through 34, where the 40 years in the wilderness correspond with the 40 days in which the spies were examining the land. Deuteronomy 1:3, 34:7, etc. Adding those years to 24:10 yields 24:50. That total allows one to see the pattern and meaning of the chronology in the Book of Jubilees. 2,450 years is exactly 50 units of 49 years. That is 50 Jubilee periods. The Exodus from Egypt, 24:10, therefore occurred fairly early in the 50th Jubilee period. The period includes the years 2402 through 2450. At the end of the 40 years in the wilderness, the Israelites would reach the land that had been granted to them through their ancestor Shem after the flood. See Jubilees 8:12 through 21 and 9:2 through 6. Noah's grandson Canaan, contrary to the oath he had sworn, stole the land that was subsequently named after him, and his descendants illegally occupied it from that time to the present. As a result, when Israel entered Canaan, they were not conquering territory rightly held by others. They were merely retaking the land given to them centuries earlier and repeatedly promised by God to their ancestors. This theme in Jubilees seems to be a response to the claim that Israel usurped the land of Canaan from its rightful owners.
Well,
it's mine because God said so.
Yep, pretty much. So it is still 40 years off for learning the Lord's commandments until the time when he leads them across to the land of Canaan after they have crossed the Jordan to the west of it. The Jubilees will pass by until Israel is pure of every sexual evil, impurity, contamination, sin, and error. Then they will live confidently in the entire land. They will no longer have any Satan or any evil one. The land will be pure from that time until eternity.
So that is a continual promise that occurs in Jubilees, is the promise of no Satan and no evil one in this utopian future that's supposed to come about.
Yep. Sorry, author of Jubilees.
And
sorry to disappoint you.
Wasn't it also in one of the other books that we read recently?
I think.
And no Satan and no evil one.
I mean, I think that came up earlier in Jubilees.
It did. It says the absence of a Satan and an evil one was predicted in 2329.
Yeah.
Also in an eschatological context. So the same expression is used to characterize the ideal conditions prevailing in Egypt when Joseph took over rule of the land for Pharaoh. And it features the description of the utopian relations prevailing in Egypt after Jacob died in chapter 40. So
okay, so I think you're probably just thinking of the rest of
just
Jubilees.
Thinking of that.
Yeah. All right. Verse 6. Oh, great. Sabbath laws.
Woo!
How exciting.
So before you get into that,
Yeah.
there's a lot about the chronology in the Book of Jubilees. A whole excursus.
Oh, fantastic.
And
Looks quite long.
I'm not going to read the entire thing, but essentially it goes over how we got to this 2450 number. Adding 40 years. So 2451 is the year for crossing the Jordan, dated to the first month, 10th day in Joshua 4:19. It is exceedingly unlikely that Weisenberg is given the natural meaning of 54, in which there is no hint that the angel is speaking about years already completed and ignoring extra months, rather than identifying the current year as 2410. Also, there has been no mention of a new year after 48:2, when Moses reached Egypt. Weisenberg referred to the year 2451, the year after the 50th 49-year period, as the Jubilee of Jubilees, the year toward which the system was pointing, or, as he put it, the Book of Jubilees' ubiquitous chronological trappings are but a contrivance designed to give the air of plausibility to the preconceived notion that the Jubilee of Jubilees was marked by an event of paramount significance. That notion, in turn, is the result of a midrashic speculation upon a parallel between the Jubilee year on the individual level and the Jubilee of Jubilees on the national level. Or, as he expresses the point earlier in the essay, the climax of the cycle of 50 Jubilee periods, and at the same time also the climax of the Jubilee years, is the 50th Jubilee year, 2451 AM. Yes, AM.
Yeah, that's I think that's just supposed to be
Yeah.
the like the total age.
Yeah, but we get that. It is the Jubilee of Jubilees, a kind of annus mirabilis, the year chosen by divine design to be marked by the most momentous event in the national epic of Israel. That event, according to the extant text of the Book of Jubilees, is Israel's entry into the land of Canaan. The writer of Jubilees very clearly places the Exodus and the return to the ancestral land in the same Jubilee period. Those are the events of the 50th Jubilee. Though he did so for the wrong reasons, Weisenberg nevertheless correctly observed that the crossing of the Jordan into Canaan would have occurred in the year 2451, the first year of the new Jubilee period. The 50th Jubilee period would have ended with Israel poised to find the Jordan River, but as Joshua 4:19 indicates, the crossing itself occurred at the beginning of the next year. With the new year, the 51st Jubilee cycle would have begun. Support for this interpretation comes from 4Q 379, 4Q Apoc Josh.
Okay, so
Fragment 12, 1 through 6. They crossed over on dry ground in the first month of the 41st year of the Exodus from the land of Egypt. And okay, it goes on like that. But the point is that that's the timing that they have. There's just a little bit more here. If so, the writer of Jubilees did not subscribe to the view that the sabbatical and Jubilee cycles began only after the conquest and distribution of the land. His was another interpretation of Leviticus 25:2. When you enter the land that I am giving you, the land shall observe a Sabbath for the Lord. That is, the system of sabbatical years would commence immediately. Bergsma has also argued that for the writer of Jubilees, the implied date for entering Canaan is the year 2451, not 2450. He writes that while in the book the term Jubilee normally designates a 49-year unit, In 50, verse 4, the writer refers to the year of Jubilee and shows in the overall chronology that he is aware of the significance borne by the 50th unit. How is one to reconcile the two notions of a Jubilee? Bergsma appealed to the view attributed to Rabbi Judah in B. Ned 61a, whatever that is, that the Jubilee year was both the 50th year of the old cycle and the first year of the new Jubilee cycle. In this respect, the method of counting is the same as for the Pentecontad festivals in the Temple Scroll. Bergsma also suggests that the 2450 years of Jubilee 54 should be added to the point from which the chronology begins, that is the year 1, not the year 0, so that the result would be the year 2451, but it's doubtful that such a reading is consistent with the text. Rather, the implication seems to be that during the 50th Jubilee period, years 2402 through 2450, the Israelites left Egypt and returned to Canaan, though the end of the period found them ready to cross the Jordan, but not yet west of it. They would then have crossed the river at the beginning of the new year. So
wow.
There's your chronology. The whole point of the Book of Jubilees was to say that crossing the Jordan was an important event.
Okay.
According at least to some of these authors.
And you know what? That would make sense because it ends the whole set of Jubilees on that. It ends Jubilee.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and now the Sabbath laws.
Fun. I have now written for you the Sabbath commandments and all the statutes of its laws. You will work for 6 days, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. Do not do any work on it. You, your children, your male and female servants, all your cattle, or the foreigner who is with you.
Yeah, so
wait, what if the cattle does something?
Oh,
is the cattle gonna,
Nah, cattle never does anything anyway. So this is Exodus 20:9 through 10. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God.
Yep.
You shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your male and female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. How would they stop the livestock?
I don't know. The person who does not work, the person who does any work on it is to die. Any man who desecrates this day, who sleeps with the woman, who says anything about work on it,
there's no such law in the Hebrew Bible, though Leviticus 15:18 says that a couple who engage in intercourse on the Sabbath become impure.
Okay.
But there's no law against it.
Okay. Who says anything? So someone can't even say anything about work, that he is to set out on a trip on it, or about any selling or buying, who on it draws water that he had not prepared for himself on the sixth day, or who lifts a load to bring it outside his tent or his house is to die. Okay, so do literally nothing.
So this comes from Isaiah 58:13, where it says, if you honor it, talking about the Sabbath, not going your own ways, serving your own interests, or pursuing your own affairs, right? Then it's it's a good thing.
Wow. Okay. Pretty sure that would have been taken for, a bit bigger things than getting yourself some water.
You got an itch on your nose? Too bad.
And no one can cook, so you're just not gonna eat.
Yeah, isn't there?
They prepare food the day before, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The day before, but let's say like a starving person wanders into town. Oh, sorry, can't help you there, man.
My religion says I can't.
Yeah. Not only can I not, I can't even talk about not being able to do it.
Right.
And I can't tell you why.
Sinned already.
Yep.
Can't help. Won't tell you why.
You fool. You fell for one of the classic blunders. On the Sabbath day, Do not do any work that you have not prepared for yourself on the 6th day, so that you may eat, drink, rest, keep Sabbath on this day from all work, and bless the Lord your God, who has given you a festal day and a holy day. This day among their days is to be the day of the holy kingdom for all Israel throughout all time. For great is the honor that the Lord has given Israel to eat, drink, and be filled on this festal day, and to rest on it from any work that belongs to the work of humanity, except to burn incense and to bring before the Lord offerings and sacrifices for the days and Sabbaths. Only this kind of work is to be done on the Sabbath days in the sanctuary of the Lord your God, in order that they may atone continuously for Israel with offerings from day to day as a memorial that is acceptable before the Lord, and in order that he may receive them forever, day by day, as you were ordered. So this seems to me to be a way to get the priestly class kind of
Food.
Yes.
I also think that that's what you do with the cattle that refuses not to work. It's like, oh man, that cattle just keeps working.
Well, you can only sacrifice certain cattle.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're
Has
right.
to be firstborn first year.
Something like that.
Bullock.
Or wasn't there a thing with like the
At 1 year
like
old.
a 3-year-old too? There was something with a
Different
3-year-old.
sacrifices for sin atonements versus like
There's like
you know,
yeah. There's the offering ones and
mhm. There's the peace offerings.
Yeah,
There's
a lot of
there were so many.
Any person who does work, who goes on a trip, who works farmland, whether at his home or in any other place, who lights a fire, who rides any animal, who travels the sea by ship, any person who beats or kills anything, who slits the throat of an animal or bird, who catches either a wild animal, a bird, or a fish, who fasts and makes war on the Sabbath day. A person who does any of these things on the Sabbath day is to die. Hold on. Who fasts and makes war? I'm confused.
You're supposed to eat.
The line forbidding warfare on the Sabbath is one of special interest because there's written evidence that the subject was debated around the time Jubilees was written. It is formulated somewhat strangely in verse 12 because there's no relative clause separating it from the previous prohibition of fasting. But it's almost certain that the law does not mean to say that a person who both fasts and makes war on the Sabbath is liable for the death penalty. It should be a distinct ruling, not part of the previous one.
Weird.
The text forbids warfare on the Sabbath and makes no distinction between offensive and defensive fighting. The issue arose in the scene described in 1 Maccabees 2:29 through 41, where opponents of King Antiochus's edicts fled into the wilderness. Troops enforcing those edicts attacked them on the Sabbath, and they died with their wives and children and livestock to the number of 1,000 persons.
That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah. Matthias and his followers then determined, let us fight against anyone who comes to attack us on the Sabbath day. Let us not all die as our kindred died in their hiding places. At least for Matthias's group, the decision was an innovation vis-a-vis an older practice of avoiding warfare altogether on the Sabbath, the practice mandated in Jubilees.
A person who does any of these things on the Sabbath is to die, so that the Israelites may continue observing the Sabbath in accord with the commandments for the Sabbaths of the land, as it was written in the tablets that he placed in my hands, so that
That's the heavenly tablets.
Yes. So that I could write for you the laws of each specific time in each division of its times.
Oh, no, this isn't the heavenly tablets. The angel of the presence says he's revealed the legislation to Moses as it was written in the tablets that he placed in my hands that I could write for you. The passive formulation, it was written, indicates that the angel himself had not recorded the laws on the tablets. Presumably God did that. Those tablets already inscribed, the deity then placed in the angel's hands. The tablets in question should be the heavenly tablets from which he has been reading to Moses throughout the book, though the term heavenly does not accompany tablets in the verse. Through this reference, he's bringing the story full circle from chapter 1. In 129, he reads, the angel of the presence who is going along in front of the Israelite camp took the tablets that told the divisions of the years. And
Yeah,
you
that's
can read the prologue to or
the postscript.
The postscript.
Yeah.
Right.
Here the words regarding the divisions of the times are completed.
Yeah. So,
Author's end note. That's it.
Is a bookend.
Yeah.
With the angel taking up the tablets that have that. So this is the heavenly tablets, but it seems strange that he also said the angel of the presence also says that he could write it for. It was put in his hands so that he could write it for Moses.
So he has the heavenly tablets, and now he is copying them for Moses. He's like a scribe.
Yeah, but he's not. He's also delivering it orally to Moses, right? He's telling these things to Moses. So is he writing, he's looking at one and he's writing on the other, and he's like, okay,
or maybe,
so here's what happens. Chapter 1, verse 1. Like what we just did?
Or maybe it's I don't know, because it's an angel, and considering the angelology, that was around, you would think that maybe this angel knows it by heart.
Mm-hmm.
So this angel wouldn't really need to be reading off of it, but then again, why would you need to have the tablets in your hand?
Mm-hmm. It's also,
so I don't know.
It's also unclear whether or not this section about sabbatical laws was an original part of the text.
Yeah, it does seem very it seems out of place. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Because you end with the Moses thing, but then you add in more stuff about the Sabbath.
Yeah.
There was a better place to put that in the book.
Well,
actually, right before the end of it,
mm-hmm.
Would have been a better place to put it.
So, final thoughts on Jubilees.
Yeah, final thoughts on Jubilees. It had some interesting points, interesting apologetics, some of them very poor. But
weird, conflicting perspective with what exists in standard narrative.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they'll either cherry pick or they'll, leave out entirely or even exacerbate certain features of the original text.
Yeah.
Some parts I think are better.
Definitely.
I think that framing Genesis as something that's being told to Moses,
the
better.
Rebecca-Jacob relationship,
it's way
remember
better.
that?
yeah,
How different it is in this book, and it almost makes Jacob seem like a stand-up guy compared to the way that he was portrayed in the original narrative.
He looks like an asshole either way.
I get that, but they're like, he followed the orders
Yeah.
of his mother and father,
Yeah.
so they made him seem better through that perspective. I think that was exemplified. It wasn't originally that way.
This kind of turned Rachel, right?
Yeah, it
was
was
Ro-
Rebecca or Rachel.
I always forget.
and Leah.
And Leah.
Yeah, but the mother there.
It's Rachel,
Was it Rachel? Okay.
I think.
I think it's Rebecca.
There are so
I-
many of
But
these
it's an R
names.
name.
It is,
R.
Either way, the mother there was portrayed
It might be Rebecca.
way more like like the bad guy in Jubilees than she was in Genesis.
Yeah, and so parts of it are better, in so far as
What was so skimmed over? There was, in the most recent readings today, we noted that part of the Moses narrative was very much skimmed over,
right,
and
for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. But see, it's that it definitely has different subpoints that they're emphasizing because they have their own agenda to portray, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was
and
Rachel.
That's what I liked about it, I guess, is to see the contrast in the two. Because we've obviously read Genesis.
Yeah. The author here had a different purpose. That's why it was not only a rewrite, but it was also a commentary. So.
Right, but the way that they frame Genesis in the Bible, it's like you don't get a lot of context for what it's supposed to be,
Yeah,
like you don't say this is Genesis, which was written by so and so in the year.
Right. So it is nice that for Jubilees, it lets you know this is being said to Moses.
Right.
Yeah.
It has
He's
more.
receiving this information.
And there's
because-
more angelology to it.
Sure.
too, like a lot more. Like you get a better view of like the cosmic order
Yeah.
than you do just reading Genesis.
Yeah, there is. While there is some stuff in Genesis about it, you
And
do get a better concept for it.
thankfully, there's not the tabernacle chapter.
Oh yes,
the
yes.
details
Thank
and the
you.
lists that we all were happy to not reread, of course.
Thank you, author of Jubilees, for leaving that part out. We did get some boring law stuff, but you know what? That's fine. The tabernacle stuff was just some of the worst.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Um,
It's what put me over the top. It's
Yeah.
why I'm not real keen on reading anymore for this.
Yeah, but
Because
also,
it was so bad, that list, I was like, I can't even look at this page and keep straight where I'm supposed to be reading because it's so repetitive.
but
know what I mean?
In other ways also, and I do know what you mean, but in other ways, the books are definitely worse than the ones that are in the Bible. You can tell that the author of Jubilees was like, he just left out details that he thought made the character seem like a bad dude
Yeah.
at certain points, and the
What
result
was it? The
is-
story that did that the most? Towards the beginning, I think it was Somebody in Goliath was the original story, and then it spirals off from there.
What?
I mean, are you thinking of David and
David,
Goliath?
thanks.
'Cause
David.
That's not even
That's not even.
like
I know,
remotely related.
I know,
Yeah.
but like, was it Solomon in here at some point?
No.
not at all.
No, you're
okay.
thinking of the way later time.
Yeah,
Fair enough. All right. Well, there
those
was
things aren't covered.
I mean,
at all.
stuff about Abraham,
Right.
stuff about all the patriarchs was
There
anything
was a
that made them look
period,
bad.
in my opinion, in this book between Abraham and Noah, where there was a lot that was going on in Genesis that was completely left out.
Between
Well, no, there was a lot that was in here that wasn't in Genesis.
And they added stuff.
Yeah.
They added stuff about
Definitely.
more of the stories of the children of Noah and more details about the children for a lot of these heritages. That was the other
sure,
thing.
yeah, there are.
but like the kind of bias that you see with like leaving out the negative
we got-
behaviors, the results is just that in the Book of Jubilees, as a work of literature, the characters are less realistic, less well developed, with the exception of
Remember that
the,
whole- the
12 sons of Israel.
There is
they're
that, yeah.
still, I think they're handled appropriately.
Also, I think the narrative in Jubilees on, was it the whole Dinah thing, like her rape or whatever? I think
Oh,
that,
yeah,
that
that
was way
story
more.
That was
had
way more intense.
like
Yeah,
at least triple the amount of content.
I would say, yeah,
yeah.
way more on it. But either way, I guess it wasn't the worst thing we've read.
No, it's
No, I liked that I
it's
at
no
least
First Chronicles.
Isn't it so First Chronicles?
it is timelined. That's the whole point of this thing, I understand. But it makes it so that I'm not questioning where am I particularly, except for Solomon. I like to add him in for some reason. I feel like he's sooner, but he's after Moses quite a bit.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Far after.
Yeah.
Like-
Never mind.
Like
He's after
there's
David.
Moses,
I like to
then
think
there's,
Jubilees goes
like,
further.
Joshua, then there's some judges for a long period of time.
Yeah, and then you get David.
No,
Sorry, then
no.
you get like Saul.
You get Saul.
Yeah,
Then you get David.
Yeah.
Then you get Solomon. So like that's multiple eras later on.
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah.
quite a ways
But-
to go for that one.
I had thought Jubilees continued, and that's, I guess, in some ways too bad because there's a lot more it could have gone over, but it's just Genesis.
Yeah, and like a little bit of Exodus.
I guess I'd like to see what the author's perspective is on future events as well, considering that the contexts in this are more Christian than necessarily not, right?
Well,
they're
it's-
not Christian at all.
not even a little
There's-
bit Christian.
There's not even.
It's definitely-
anything even close to Christology.
there's a lot of apologetics in there.
I see.
Yeah,
That's what I kind of mean is that they do more referencing to those things.
Absolutely, yeah, because they have to, because they're like, you know what, there's been some issues brought up.
Well, it's a precursor to it, then, is what I mean, right?
Well,
It's
I mean,
it's closer to where we are in the divisions than previously. It's
Well,
better
there's
defined.
apologetics in the Bible too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole point of Jubilees was to kind of serve as an apologetic.
Yeah. Speaking of the whole point, what's the whole point of Tobit that we're getting into next week?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a fun one.
What kind of commentaries and stuff do we have?
All right, so yes, I mean we're not gonna be reading any of it today, but yeah. So here's Tobit. We're gonna be using Carrie A. Moore's translation with commentary from the Anchor Bible series, as you can see right here in my hand. That's a thing that is in your line of sight. So. We're going to be covering that. We also have from the New Interpreter's Bible, the which version is that?
Volume 6.
Volume 6.
Which includes Tobit and a bunch of other things.
Yes. So
Bible commentary.
We don't know how that shows up on the green screen, but fine. Okay. That's good.
It's dark green. Surprisingly, didn't have it's yellowish colors we have worse issues with.
Huh. Okay.
Lighter colors.
Yeah. Right, so yeah, we got that, and I think we might be using Erdman's as well.
Yeah, I think Erdman's has Tobit.
Yeah. So
We don't have any Hermenia for that, right?
No.
Okay.
Sadly, we do not.
Unfortunate, but we do have the Anchor Bible. So, tune in next week when we start Tobit.
And on Sunday we continue Jeremiah.
Yep.
And we hope you all have a Merry Christmas. I'll say Happy New Year next time. But
yeah,
definitely.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff, whichever one you prefer.
And remember to get your pets spayed and neutered.
All right, let's see. What do we have? We got a Patreon. If you like what we do, consider donating on Patreon because you get a lot of cool stuff.
That we do. You can get on the show for $50 a month.
Yeah, you get access to all the
giveaway.
Yeah, t-shirt giveaway, video scripts, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
no, check out the Quran video that just came out.
Yeah.
If you haven't.
Yeah. Drop a like if you haven't already, because that actually does help us out a lot.
Yep.
Let's see. We got a wish list. So yeah, you know what? If you want us to have a good Christmas and a happy New Year, we got a wish list with a lot of books.
You can
a lot of books.
buy us things to put on this table that we can read to you.
Yeah, link is in the description.
We also updated the playlists recently.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can go on the playlist and see how terrible our first episodes made in Sunday school.
So bad.
It gets
so
better.
Bad. The thing is, the first episode of Friday Apocryphal podcast wasn't that great either, because for the second episode, that's when we got the mics.
Oh, man, you're right.
Yeah.
It was the transitional period to the new system.
Mm-hmm.
So, although these mics have been fucking great.
Maybe the Quran will have a ballpark head or something.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll do that next year. Let's try.
Yeah. Let's see. Facebook and Twitter, free to follow us on there. Teespring, just maybe get a shirt. All the links are in the description below.
Amazon has, according to your evidence, unicorns these days.
No.
Right? No, you can't buy it on Amazon.
It's not on Amazon.
No, what's it on?
It's on Lulu, I think.
Lulu. Go check out Lulu.
Yeah, or you know what? You can just get one of those books if you're a $5 patron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So either way, that's all the shilling we got to do. Classic YouTube stuff. And until next time,
we will see you on Sunday.